Fight or flight patterns, being in survival mode, and how that manifests into illness and what happens afterwards, how some of that illness comes through after we get through the traumatic moment, or even the times in our lives where we're just living in a constant state of stress, or even something like a tumultuous divorce, or taking care of a family member who's terminally ill and then their family, and then conflict afterwards with their passing and their conflict with the family, or maybe just being in a really toxic environment or an abusive marriage. All of those things are putting us in survival mode or fight or flight patterns, and that affects our body physically, and it manifests into physical illness because our energetic body, it's like getting tased on a daily basis with like obscene amounts of stress that keep us in these fight or flight patterns that condition us to feel like we have to constantly be on our toes and be tuned into our environment so we can maintain a sense of safety and basically survive these toxic conditions that are causing a heightened state of stress within ourselves energetically and physically as these issues manifest into illness over time. So I'm going to start first with talking about what happens after you get out of those survival patterns or after being out of fight or flight. And it usually happens within like a couple days or even a couple weeks, and you just wake up one day and you can't even hold your eyes open. The fatigue, it's knocking. Like you can barely move. And as you're fighting through this fatigue, all those energetic blocks that have been festering and manifesting energetically that are becoming illness, they start to come through. And it starts first with stomach issues because now of being in a fight or flight pattern, it conditions you to react and it conditions you to stay in a reactive state. So you may not be in a reactive, heightened state of stress, but now you're starting to second guess yourself. You're feeling unsure of yourself. You're lacking in confidence. You're lacking in self-love because all that time while you were in fight or flight, you disconnected from yourself because you were in survival mode. You were putting all of your energy and all of your attention to your environment, your surroundings, the people you were dealing with, whatever was going on. It disconnected you from yourself. Now you're in a space where there's not any distractions, so all you have is yourself, and it causes you to feel like a lack of confidence and lack it energetically because you no longer know what you want. You've been disconnected from yourself. So when you start making just daily life decisions or you start moving forward in life, you feel a sense of fear, and you feel everything you're doing is fear-based. Fear is stress, and it brings those energetic blocks from the moment of fight or flight. It starts to bring them forward as they're manifesting into illness, and almost always the first thing I see on my clients is stomach issues. You start having, like, you either have constipation or you're the other way where you're having chronic diarrhea, or you have celiac type symptoms where you're like bloated and you're achy and your stomach just feels real groggy, and it doesn't matter what you eat, you're just heightened sensitivities to food, and your immune system starts to break down. So you're noticing you have a lingering cough, your nose is running, maybe you have sinus headaches, you might even have some TMJ because you've been clenching your jaw for however many months, days, years that you're in this fight or flight pattern. And all of these things start to surface because now your attention, it's coming back to yourself. It's no longer on your environment because your environment has changed as you shifted out of fight or flight. And as this progresses, you're now losing sleep. You're tossing and turning. And all these thoughts and feelings and emotions that you had during that time that you had to suppress in an effort to survive and maintain a sense of safety in a toxic environment, those start to come through. And they come through while you're sleeping because when you're sleeping, your guard is down. You're in a state of rest. And then that state of rest is now removed because your body puts yourself in a stress state because it's problem solving from way back when you were in fight or flight. Those problems and all those thoughts, they're surfacing, and now you're thinking through them because you have time. And then where this goes from here is because you're processing things still and your mind is still spinning, even though you're fine, you start to feel like you have forgotten something. You feel like you're supposed to be doing something, and then you start to have memory issues and you start to forget things because your mind is still spinning in fight or flight from the past. So you have memory loss issues, but you also are constantly, it's almost like an anxiety. Like you're like, what am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting something, and you feel like you need to be doing something. So what happens is you start keeping yourself busy. And now that cycle is starting to come back into your space just through your behaviors because now you're creating stress because that's what you're conditioned to know. So you start keeping yourself busy because when you sit down to relax, it feels like fear. It feels like anxiety. So you keep yourself busy to avoid feeling that sense of fear because now your mind is conditioned. Rest means fear. Having extra time means you forgot something. Having extra time means you didn't do something. And you're going back and forth energetically in these patterns in your mind, and it's creating more stress. Now you're putting yourself back into fight or flight survival mode, and you're just survival mode of yourself, and all those feelings and emotions that surfaced. Now you're survival mode of that because you're not paying attention. So as this video keeps going, you're getting the point that this can just keep going, and it keeps going and going and going, and now you're holding on to weight loss, you're comfort eating, you have anxiety, and you have a continuous string of health issues because energetically your body is still responding. So as a medical health intuitive with my clients, all of them, in every single session, I tell them to stop and breathe. The minute you start to feel like you're forgetting something, or the minute you start to feel like you have to do something and you have to get up and be busy, stop and breathe. And the whole stop and count to 10 thing is a very real thing. Don't count to 10 though, breathe 10 times. Inhale long, exhale slow. Long, slow, deep breaths, and stop and breathe and ask yourself why you feel that way. Talk to what comes to you, whether it's an emotional feeling or a physical habit / behavior. Talk to it. Why do you feel that has to come to you? Because 99% of the time, it's just a trauma response to something you experienced before coming through to the surface because now you're in a heightened state of rest. We aren't meant to live in fight or flight always. We aren't meant to be in survival mode. Those emotions, survival mode and fight or flight, those are temporary things that we live through and learn from and then move back into our state of peace. So once we get out of that, it's like we have to recondition our thinking and we have to recondition our mind to maintain a sense of calm and a sense of peace. And the first thing to do when doing that is breathing and pausing the body and slowing the body down physically in our breathing and slowing the body down mentally and emotionally in our thoughts and allowing ourselves to feel our thinking and feel our thoughts and slow them down as they come to us so we can return back to our sense of peace. And then when we return back to our sense of peace, we heal. And we heal physically, we heal emotionally, and we heal energetically. My name's Chanel. I'm a medical health intuitive. My business is Define Your Glow. If you'd like me to take a look at your energetic body and your physical body so we can see where trauma and stress is trapped energetically and how it's manifesting into illness in your physical body, you can go to my website, defineyourglow.com. You can schedule a private session. We can take a look and get you on your path of healing.